Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really strategic briefing from VietDak Edu. It's all about global leadership standards for Vietnamese enterprises. So if you're sitting on a board of directors, maybe you're a founder, a CEO, or even an MBA researcher, listen up, because this is literally built for you. We're going to explore that tricky, often messy bridge between high-level global academic standards and the actual, boots-on-the-ground realities of Vietnamese corporate culture. Let's kick things off with a massive question. It's a huge friction point for so many organizations. Why do so many international management models just fail when they're applied in Vietnam? Seriously, you see it all the time, right? These textbook strategies, these shiny governance models shipped straight from the West. They look absolutely brilliant on paper, but then they completely fall flat in the real-world ecosystem of a Vietnamese enterprise. So why is that?
Well, the core of the issue really boils down to formal structure versus informal power. Like, on paper, your official org chart dictates exactly who reports to whom, nice and tidy. But imagine a mid-level manager needs a critical budget approved. In a Vietnamese enterprise, getting things done is rarely just about knocking on the door of the person with the official title. It's driven by informal power. We're talking relationships, historical ties, and deep, deep trust. If you're only looking at the official hierarchy, honestly, you are completely missing how the company actually runs.
To break all of this down systematically, here's our roadmap. 1. Modern leadership challenges. 2. Global standards in a Vietnamese context. 3. Power and politics. 4. The VietDak philosophical system. And finally, 5. Leadership in the digital era. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Modern leadership challenges.
Look, high-level leaders right now are facing macroeconomic pressures like never before. They are up against insane global economic volatility, massive digital transformation, the explosion of AI, fierce international competition, and the constant relentless need for corporate model restructuring. It's a lot. And the key takeaway here, relying just on traditional, old-school operational management is a total recipe for failure. Modern leaders absolutely must develop multidimensional, strategic systems thinking if they want to survive in this kind of shifting environment.
Which brings us to Section 2, Global Standards, Vietnamese Context.
Here is the core philosophy that solves that massive friction we talked about earlier. Global standards, Vietnamese context. Now, the goal here isn't to just throw out international academic foundations. Not at all. It's to use them, but strictly adapt them to the actual living operational logic of Vietnamese organizations. You just can't copy-paste Western models. You have to contextualize them.
So what exactly is that context? Well, those copy-paste models fail because they completely ignore crucial cultural nuances. We're dealing with a really distinct power culture here, driven heavily by collective psychology. You've got deeply rooted family business structures, a very strong tendency toward indirect communication, and super powerful informal influence mechanisms. Think about it. Picture a boardroom where absolutely no one disagrees with the founder out of respect, even if the data says they should. Understanding traits like these isn't just some fluffy HR exercise. It is absolutely critical for executives to actually lead effectively.
All right, shifting gears to Section 3, Power and Politics.
This is exactly where theory hits a brick wall called practice. Take standard international theories, right? The Tuckman model of team development, French and Raven's power theory, or even the buzzword of the decade, psychological safety. When you try to apply those in Vietnam, the reality shifts drastically. Instead, leaders are wrestling with heavy founder dependency, deep-seated informal authority, and highly siloed organizations paired with a very strong culture of conflict avoidance. Those textbook academic theories, they have to be reconciled with these on-the-ground realities.
Which brings up a crucial point, the myth of the rigid corporate ladder. If you evaluate an organization purely by looking at its formal top-down hierarchy, you are completely ignoring how work actually gets done.
Because, in reality, these organizations are run by invisible forces. We're talking trust, influence, relationships, informal networks, and organizational culture. Grasping this is a massive paradigm shift. You're moving away from traditional management and stepping into modern organizational sociology and institutional governance. You are managing a living, breathing network, not just names in little boxes.
Let's move on to Section 4, the VietDak philosophical system.
So, how does this all come together? Well, the VietDak Executive Leadership System is a foundational leadership philosophy. It's a corporate governance framework, and it's an operational mindset, all specifically custom-built for modern Vietnamese enterprises. You really have to think of this not just as, short-term skills training or a motivational seminar, but as a comprehensive, long-term developmental blueprint for organizational survival and expansion.
And this philosophy breaks down into 5 key pillars of modern executive management. Are you ready? It's managing the system, managing power, managing culture, managing change, and managing the future. Notice how broad that is. Modern leaders have to manage so much more than just human resources. They are steering the entire organizational ecosystem.
Finally, let's explore Section 5, Leadership in the Digital Era.
Now, we have to pivot our systemic thinking toward the future, global scaling and tech integration. Because navigating an era that is fundamentally redefining global corporate structures, well, it requires 4 strategic steps. Step 1, AI leadership. Step 2, data-driven management. Step 3, governance transformation. And Step 4, human-AI collaboration. Honestly, you simply cannot ignore these if you want your company to stay relevant.
For Vietnamese conglomerates that actually master these digital and systemic capabilities, the strategic outcomes are massive. The targets here are to upgrade governance capacity, achieve true, long-lasting sustainable development, successfully scale up conglomerate operations, and ultimately elevate your global competitiveness. This right here is the blueprint for thriving on the world stage.
Which brings us to a really powerful summary of this whole long-term vision. Leadership is not just operations, governance is not just control, and strategy is not just growth. This framework completely redefines these 3 core executive functions for the new generation of Vietnamese corporate leaders. It's about building an organization that can actually adapt, expand, and endure in a crazy, volatile global environment.
So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Take a hard look at your own enterprise and ask yourself, is your organization merely growing or is it ready to endure? Growth is great, don't get me wrong, but true endurance in an unpredictable global future, that requires a completely upgraded leadership system. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope these insights give you a powerful new lens to evaluate your organization's true readiness.